There still are a lot of uncertainties in the market, whether you think about the election, you think about geopolitical concerns, natural disasters. There's still ongoing debate over, whether the Fed will be able to achieve their soft landing, whether we're going to enter more of a no landing regime. But frankly, in my view, the setup is still just as compelling in Q4 as it was, at the beginning of this year. I think it's important to understand from a macro perspective, the cycle is not completed yet.
Well, a lot going on in the crypto markets per usual. A lot going on in Bitcoin as well after HBO's big documentary aired, potentially pointing the finger at maybe one of the people behind Satoshi Nakamoto, perhaps the guy who is Satoshi Nakamoto, depending on what you want to believe from that documentary. Nothing definitive yet, but for something definitive, very happy to have back on with us the analyst who nailed price last year to talk a little bit more about what he's watching this year. Sean Farrell, head of digital asset strategy at Fundstrat, joining Coinage once again. Sean, good to see you, man.
Hey, Zach, great to see you too. Thanks for having me on again.
Yeah, it's exciting. It's a weird time, obviously, because we're coming out of the summer doldrums a little bit right now, and a lot of people excited about October, this idea of just escaping all of the flatness that we've seen for a while. Excited to have you on to dig through all of this, and right now we're kind of looking at a few different charts when it comes to Bitcoin's pricing. Right now, holding that $60,000 level. But I think the important thing to highlight, Sean, is you've been right in the past. You still got that price target of, north of 115K. I don't think anything's changed. Every time I have you on, nothing's really changed. Just waiting and seeing. What are you making of, I guess, the reaction to the HBO documentary? You and I both watched it. Right now, it doesn't seem to be impacting the market all that much.
Yeah, look, I caught like the first 30 minutes. Didn't really have time last night to watch the whole thing. I thought it was pretty entertaining. I think they did a pretty good, I think their general comments and description of Bitcoin and the industry and the general vibe was pretty good, I guess. I read a few summaries of kind of their takeaway and assumptions and conclusions around Peter Todd and his association and his potential to be Satoshi. And I don't know, it seemed like didn't seem very compelling to myself. The market seems to have shrugged it off. Nothing really, no real identifiable reaction in the order books. And so, I think it's one of those things that will probably be maybe debated by some for a little while, and we'll go back and forth, and people will eventually move on to the next rumor.
Yeah, that's usually how these things go. It's cool for a little bit, fun to think about a theory, and then you move on. And maybe that's what we should do in terms of zooming out. This is another chart that I was looking at that I saw on Twitter, just kind of setting up the historical nature of what we're looking at in this cycle. A lot of people like to look back to prior cycles to say, okay, this is kind of what we're on the precipice of. And essentially, Bob Lucas here, looking at the prior cycles and highlighting that we've essentially kind of traded flat for the last 8 months, and showing how that compares to prior cycles. Are you kind of similarly still in the camp that we have been setting up for a big move here in Q4? I guess we would have to kind of hit your 120K price target.
Yeah, look, I think right now in the immediate sense, there's, kind of in the summer months we had obviously a lot of negative seasonality, a lot of idiosyncratic selling events that really put a lid on any kind of rally, beyond the highs we reached in March. But now, in the immediate sense, fast forwarding to right now, there still are a lot of uncertainties in the market, whether you think about the election, you think about geopolitical concerns, natural disasters. There's still ongoing debate over, whether the Fed will be able to achieve their soft landing, whether we're going to enter more of a no landing regime. But frankly, in my view, it's the setup is still just as compelling in Q4 as it was, at the beginning of this year. We have global central banks. They've started to cut. Over 50% of central banks globally are cutting. That is great for global liquidity and liquidity sensitive assets. The Fed has started cutting, which is not bullish in and of itself, but they're cutting into 3% real GDP growth, fiscal deficits that are still at wartime levels, with asset prices at all-time highs, and an employment jobs market that has softened, but frankly is still compared to historical levels is still relatively strong. And so I think this gets back to our point that we've kind of tried to hammer home over the past few months, is that we're still mid cycle from a liquidity perspective. And as we go forward, as these different risks start to become mitigated, we're going to see interest rates come down, collateral values start to increase, lending increase, and certainly there will be bumps along the way, but I think it's important to understand from a macro perspective, the cycle is not completed yet. And then, I'll stop there, but there are obviously crypto-specific factors to consider as we head into Q4. I mean, just from a
Yeah.
flows perspective, the whole equation, it's essentially the opposite of what we had over the summer, right? From a flows perspective.
Well, from a flows perspective, there's probably a couple different things to dig into. One of them might be MicroStrategy in terms of how much they're buying now also flows into that picture of flows, if that makes sense, because they just keep writing new equity notes and raising money to then buy Bitcoin, and we're not seeing their stock pressured by that because of the way that, normally it might be dilutive when you are doing something like that, but because MicroStrategy is kind of proven they know what they're doing in terms of raising cash to go out and buy more Bitcoin, and that all works when Bitcoin's price is rising, or at least not falling. I don't know what happens to that strategy, though, when it starts to flip, and I'm not saying it will, but if it were, it would obviously be very bad. But for on the up, what are you expecting to see out of MicroStrategy? Because that stock recently, over the last month, it's up like 50%, if not more.
Yeah. Look, I think it's amazing what Michael Saylor has done, what MicroStrategy has done, and I think people used to look at their premium to NAV, we'll call it, right? So essentially, their equity is trading at sometimes 2.5x what the Bitcoin on their balance sheet is worth. That's ignoring their opco as well. And people would constantly clamor that this should compress the NAV, and that MicroStrategy should eventually come in line with Bitcoin. But this ingenious strategy that they have operationalized puts investors in a position where you have to value the MicroStrategy equity based on their ability to continue to execute on the strategy to acquire Bitcoin in a way that is accretive to their share price, is not dilutive over the long term, and discount that strategy to present value. And so I think that premium you see, and it's expanding again today. I think that's what we're seeing getting priced in. They're able to issue super cheap debt. I think the interest rate on their last note was about 60 bips, which is just unreal. And then of course they can buffer any kind of solvency metrics, solvency ratios with their equity sales that they've started to do.
Yeah.
They have that at the market equity offering for $2 billion. They've tapped about half of that, and I wouldn't be surprised to learn that with yesterday's rally back up to, I think they tapped all-time highs. I'm not sure. No, I wouldn't be surprised to see them come back into the market with another 900 million, having sold into that massive rally relative to Bitcoin.
Yeah. No, I think it's pretty interesting to watch them continue to hammer home their bet on Bitcoin. On the flip side, though, in terms of a catalyst, right, that carries the market, that's kind of what some people are debating right now, is whether or not you need a big Bitcoin outbreak to start, quote unquote, Uptober, if something else can lead it as well. And we are seeing breakout shoots in terms of other things doing that. Whether it is kind of these new challengers to Ethereum L1s out there, whether it's Sui, Aptos as well, seeing some pumps over the last month. Swee's up like 100% over the last month, so that's pretty crazy. And obviously, as Coinage being one of the largest Sui validators, not complaining about it over here. Elsewhere, though, you do have a guy making the headlines right now in Murad. Just looking at some of his talks at Token 2049 in Singapore, basically highlighting that meme coins are going to be the ones that break out October into full-blown cycle. Basically saying that L1s are just, vaporware for VCs to dump on people, that you got gaming tokens that haven't really lived up to their expectation or done anything, that it's really going to be meme coins. Sean, what are you seeing as kind of like the catalyst to say definitively, okay, we've broken out into this stage? Is it just, look, it's not going to happen before the election? Or are you kind of saying that, okay, if we have SWE up 100%, maybe that's showing us something?
Yeah, look, I think I think ultimately you do need Bitcoin. It's still 60% of the market. You need Bitcoin to rally and have some of that wealth creation effect happen, and people can rotate their coins from Bitcoin, from their wealth from Bitcoin into these other alts. So I do think to have this face ripping broader breadth rally, you do need Bitcoin to move higher, to break out. I'm not necessarily convinced that you need well, we can talk more about the election. We probably do wait. We probably don't see that until the election, but not necessarily because of the binary outcome thesis. But it is probably around the time that happens. But back to your original question around meme coins, I think that it's interesting to see a lot of the controversy around meme coins. But one interesting thing to consider is that when you look at the performance of some of the different sectors within crypto and some of the different coins within those different sectors, there's just been a lot of idiosyncratic performance, right? Whereas I think a lot of people were accustomed to what we saw back in 2020 and 2021, where you could kind of just throw stuff at the wall and it would stick. You really had to be very selective, and you've had to be a highly performant fund manager to outperform Bitcoin over this cycle thus far. And you can kind of you might be able to point to meme coins as something that has aided that market dynamic, right? I mean, I think more broadly, it probably has to do with the fact that we're not back into the ZERP era type setup that we had back then. But you have this resource now that the market has agreed is acceptable to trade in meme coins, and you have this platform in, say, Solana, that you can create meme coins at a whim for very low cost, and you kind of bootstrap social consensus around these meme coins, and this kind of serves as this bucket for this excess froth that used to in prior cycles go into the quote unquote vaporware type projects, whether they be alternative L1s, L2s, you have it. Meme coins have kind of been that place for retail fervor this cycle. So I think that's just an interesting thing to think about, something I've been thinking about, and something to think about if you're an allocator and want to capitalize on that froth.
Yeah, I feel like it's kind of interesting to maybe tie into, and it is funny because we have who I consider to be one of the top analysts in crypto on the show, and then we have kind of someone who's saying, maybe it's not about analysis on like how much fees per blockchain and transactions you have to really analyze the market cap of these L1s or L2s. You shouldn't look at it that way. You should look at the fervor of the community, social shares, blah, blah, blah. And it's like, okay, it's kind of two different camps, but at the same time, guys like Murad are taking kind of scientific or at least statistical looks at these meme coins. So if I could pair the two, it is, again, I think kind of interesting to say that like revenue coming from either NFT projects or meme coins, whether it is transaction fees or whatever, or Aave or DeFi like that, looking at it and saying that it's, it's a floor in terms of where you could value these things, but it's also a ceiling because you can't have a blow off the top. What is it really worth? Kind of way to look at a meme coin and say it could be worth $1 trillion. But I digress. I think one of the things that could pair these two rational and irrational kind of ways to analyze the real worth of these projects. If we look at the Solana chart right now, Sean, over the last year or so, I know you got like a $500 price target on that for year end. But when you look at it, I do think it's interesting to kind of dig into this idea that, like, okay, if Solana's big pump in the year run up has been maybe, I don't want to overlook the fact that the FTX blow up certainly like dented that in a big way, obviously, because it was essentially a Sam Bankman-Fried coin. But it also was the meme coins that kind of fueled Solana's rally. And so if you have some of these other meme coins blown up on other chains now, does that perhaps dent the prospects of Solana by itself?
I think you have to look at those. I think it probably does help the other chains to an extent. I'm not sure it hurts Solana. Because if you look at all of the current on-chain metrics for Solana, you still see, active users, transactions, DEX volumes still at pretty elevated levels. And I think that is because you have seen other non-meme coin applications on board and become developed on Solana. Something we're pretty excited about right now is the Deepin sector, which we can chat about if you'd like. But those are non-financial applications that are being built on crypto rails, and the chain of choice for the majority of Deepin applications these days is Solana. And perhaps they looked at the performance capabilities of Solana due to the fact that this chain was able to handle the creation and trading of these thousands and thousands of meme coins in a short amount of time, which demonstrated its ability to handle all of this throughput, and therefore wanted to access and build their business on this chain. And so back to your original question about these other chains, I do think it could be value accretive to them if you see meme coins launching on there, if it demonstrates that, that they are a retail-friendly platform, right? I think that's what has made Solana so special, is that there aren't a lot of hoops to jump through. A lot of the applications of Solana are very user-friendly. The UX is great. So if these other chains use that as a go-to-market strategy to demonstrate their capabilities, I could certainly see that as something that will attract more projects that are building to build on their chain. It'll obviously attract flows, speculative flows, but that could lead to more stickier flows ultimately. So yeah, it certainly can be accretive to these other chains.
I suspected you might dig into Deepin as a way to refute the idea that Solana is doomed because meme coins might exist on other chains. And I think that is an important thing to highlight. And when you go into the Deepin sector, it has been one that I think has attracted a lot of the analytical types, because you can start to forecast out fees, transactions, usage, when it is a real product that people might need, particularly in the broadband internet space, or kind of, I guess, what we've seen from Helium or Hivemap or all kinds of other projects that are really kind of truly leaning into decentralizing the way that the product works. I mean, in the Deepin space, is there one specific project that you think you're most bullish on as you kind of continue researching that arena?
Yeah, look, I think, just to quickly provide high-level thoughts, just to confirm kind of what you said, I think Deepin is super special because to date in crypto, the majority of stuff that we've built really is financial infrastructure, right? And finance is great. It's great for pulling cash flows from the future via debt, or leveraging cash flow or capturing cash flows via equity. It's great for allocating capital, but ultimately the effectiveness and usefulness of finance is really only finance is really only as useful as the commerce and the applications that are built on top of it, right? And Deepin are, that is those are those non-speculative, non-financial applications that are being built. And I think what's going to happen over time as, I think over the next 12, 18 months, we're going to see, changes happen in Congress. We're going to see a market structure bill come to pass. We're going to see a new cohort of investors come into crypto, and I think they're going to be fascinated with Deepin because, the value propositions are familiar, right, to the non-crypto person, but their services are just cheaper and better. And so, getting back to projects we're excited about, I think Helium is the torchbearer for the Deepin space. I think they have proven that they pioneered a hardware supply build out in a distributed fashion. They finally, through their Helium mobile product, they've proven that it is possible to build out a dense demand side of a Deepin network. So Helium, XNet within the mobile space are very intriguing to us. GeoNet is one in the geospatial data arena that I think is very intriguing. And there's no token yet, but we've been following the Dawn Internet team that spun out of Andrina, which was a Web 2 wireless broadband internet company, and Dawn Internet is it's called for simplification purposes the Web 3 version of it, and they should be coming to market Q4, Q1. So we have our eyes on that right now. I think it's I've been very impressed with their execution, and they're going to be coming to market with I think somewhere between 3,000 to 5,000 users on the demand side of the platform already, because a lot of their users on the Web 2 side of the equation of things are going to be transitioning to the Web 3 network. And so I've just been impressed with their execution and think it's going to be a intriguing project to watch going forward. But
Yeah.
there are a lot of projects that we're interested in.
Well, I think from a high level, it has been interesting. As I mentioned, kind of Murad's thoughts on this idea of why people might be interested in Deepin is that it's like a second level opportunity to, I guess, lean into vaporware for a lot of these VCs if they wanted to, in terms of, I don't believe this, but this might be the pessimistic approach of like, okay, you've got an L1 that's layer 1 vaporware where it's just like, hey, we're going to build this chain, it's going to work out, and they dump on you. Or you got layer 2 version of vaporware. It's like, not only do we have a thing, but we also have the chain that will power the thing. So it's like a real product that really sucks you into believing that it'll work. But I think, for building a two-sided marketplace, like you mentioned, that doesn't happen overnight. It does take some time, especially when it's built around a product. But I guess, is there like a takeaway, some sort of like, number to watch when you are analyzing which ones these are interesting? Or is it just piecing together, look, they've got some interesting tech, they understand the tokenomics of it, and they're actually a real project?
Yeah, look, I mean, ultimately you want to see revenues, right? That demand side of the network popping off, so to speak. But there aren't that many Deepin applications that have reached that. I think there are some, and when that happens, you should start paying attention. So we got really bowled up on Helium this year just because of the fact that they are, they're now, they're via their offload program that they've started. I actually want to pull up the statistics real fast because it's very impressive.
Yeah, it wouldn't be the first. I mean, we were looking at it too, just because it does seem like there is a bit of a true point in time now for Deepin projects that have
like
followed the giants from before.
Yeah, so on the Helium mobile network, they have almost 120,000 signups, and they actually don't have. They don't have. Okay, they've transferred 3.2 petabytes of data through hotspots. That's on just Helium Mobile, and now they also have carrier offload programs which essentially, I don't know if you're familiar with like how roaming works, but essentially if you have mobile service and the network that you're on gets crowded, you can roam onto other, carrier nodes, and they're servicing these major carriers with Helium mobile nodes, and it looks like they've had some days up to 160,000 major carrier subscribers offloading data to Helium hotspots, and to date have offloaded 115 terabytes of data. And so, ultimately that is value accretive to the H&T token, the way that the platform is structured. So it's really just bringing everything together. It's bringing, how many nodes are on the supply side, how fast that has been built out, how the team is executed, what the tokenomics look like, and of course, ultimately, ideally, you have proven demand.
Yeah, it has been interesting to watch. I mean, obviously, despite the rise in that, and maybe this is kind of core to the thesis of meme coins, is that despite the fact that there is real progress there, not a huge blow off the top rally in H&T necessarily recently, though I think it would be fair to say over the last year up more than 350%. So relative to stocks, still pretty good. Relative to some meme coins that have been popping off right now, maybe not so good, but obviously all these things can change pretty quickly. I mean, from a high level, Sean, just to kind of wrap up here, obviously since we have you on like maybe once a month, that's what we've been averaging recently. I mean, from a high level, which camp are you in? If you really had to drill down on it, because I know you guys have previously published like buying opportunities in Doge, so I'm not saying that you're not in that meme coin camp, but if you were to look at things right now, how should people be kind of positioned, one foot in one camp, one foot in the other?
For meme coins specifically, or just like the broader market?
Well, I feel like so many people often talk about it. It's in this rally we had this year, right, with Bitcoin up. There's a lot of people who got caught flat-footed because they weren't allocated to Bitcoin at all, and all
Right.
coins are down so much, so they're not feeling so good. And so I guess the takeaway there would be always kind of barbell approach it in the world of crypto.
Yes, that is literally the word I was going to use, and the word that we've used with clients and subscribers. I think you should view Bitcoin kind of as your it's called a treasury asset, for lack of a better word, but it's even though your goal is to outperform Bitcoin, if you're a fund manager and that's like your benchmark, I don't think you should shy away from owning it, right? But you just tactically allocate to alts based on which ones are stronger, which ones are showing more fundamental demand, or which ones just technically look very compelling and socially have a lot of tailwinds, like these meme coins. So I think a portfolio that's heavy in the majors, but then strategically allocates to maybe some Deepin networks that have fundamental use cases, but then save 3 to 5% of your crypto specific capital for these options on risk that don't have an expiry, right? Because they do exist, they do outperform, they are liquid, and those rallies are sometimes quite ephemeral, but to paraphrase, you might not like them, but to paraphrase, a famous investor in the space, do you want to make money, or do you want to be right? And I think most of our clients prefer the former to the latter.
Yeah. No, I think a lot of our viewers prefer the former as well. Before we let you go, the last bit, which is the election, as you mentioned, I mean, obviously, a lot of people are saying it doesn't matter necessarily, though a Trump boost might be there. How are you kind of advising clients around what's to come in November?
Yeah, so our view for a while now, our perspective has been that there would be a Trump premium were he to win. That's undoubtable. I think you'd have a scenario in which I'm uncertain as to the probability of a strategic reserve actually happen, but if he does win, you'd have to put a non-zero probability of that occurring, which certainly would be great for Bitcoin price. And obviously you would have the guaranteed dismantling of choke point 2.0, but we're not convinced that there should be a significant or sustained Harris discount. I do think there will be some acute risks around the election. If Harris were to win, you probably do see some downside price action, but after a while, you probably just trade according to macro trends after the dust settles. And eventually you probably trade a little higher because regardless of who wins the White House, the way the probabilities are shaping up in the Senate, it is looking to be quite favorable for crypto. So it does look like the Senate should flip to red, and that is very important for crypto because the Senate is the body of Congress that approves all cabinet and agency positions nominated by the White House. And so you'd have a scenario in which you wouldn't, President Harris, who is antagonist, who's likely, she hasn't said it, but she's probably antagonistic towards crypto, just like her predecessor, but she wouldn't be able to insert cabinet members and agency leaders that would perpetuate choke point 2.0 because presumably the Senate would not allow them to have the job. So that is good. They would also, you would also have the most antagonistic characters like Senators Warren and Brown out of their leadership positions in the Senate Banking Committee. So that would certainly be a great thing for the industry. We'd be able to get banking services back, which is, I think, would be a massive value unlock for everybody in the space. But so I guess to summarize, I think Trump premium, no real Harris discount on net. Things from a regulatory perspective should be better post-election. And then I guess I should just real quick comment on the fiscal situation. I think it's important to hammer home. I think that both one candidate is significantly more fiscally stimulative than the other. That is Trump. But ultimately, neither candidate is pushing for austerity or looking to balance the budget. And so really from a fiscal perspective, it is the choice between bad or worse if you're a fiscal conservative, or good or better if you are concerned about asset prices going up.
Yeah, I think it's a good takeaway, and certainly perhaps why we saw so many senators at Mainnet, the Masari Mainnet conference just last week. There was just a lot of foot traffic there for a lot of senators in their races, and obviously with crypto being the largest super PAC in the U.S. this election cycle. Very interesting to see those battles shaping up. Sean Farrell from Fundstrat, can't thank you enough for coming on. Thank you for making the time. As always, man, love to have you back soon.
Yeah, always a pleasure. Thanks for having me.
All right, Sean Farrell from Fundstrat there, the head of digital asset research. For everybody here, for Sean, for myself, for everyone here at Coinage, appreciate you tuning in. As always, you can check out the biggest headlines in crypto at coinage.media and join our project to co-own us, the only community-owned Web3 outlet in the game. Become a part of our community. And stake with us if you haven't yet. Helps power everything here. You can buy an NFT. You can stake with us. Viva Coinage. Viva everyone who watches. I'm Zach Guzman signing off. Thanks again. We'll see you soon.